welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Bajo.
And I'm Hex. And this time next week, Bajo, I'm going to be in LA, bathing in the flashing lights and the loud music and the cheesy PR spin that is E3.
Oh, I'm very jealous. Brand new consoles as well.
Oh, I'm so excited. I really hope it's awesome. What's even more awesome, though, is it's going to be the first year that we hand out our very own Best of E3 awards.
Yes, once again, we were left off the official E3 judging panel, so this time we've decided to hand out our very own.
Yeah, rightly so. Let's just hope the devs like receiving them.
But before we go jetting off, Hex, we've got some reviewing to do.
Oh, do we ever? We've got Naughty Dog's latest game, The Last of Us.
Oh, man.
Hey, what happened to sleeping?
Okay, I know it doesn't look like it, but this here is not a bad read. Only one problem. Right there. To be continued.
And we see if Fuse manages to light some excitement.
But first, can you guess the game? News time, Bajo.
Okay.
I'm gonna play the new Xbox and the new PlayStation and all the games. I'm gonna look at them. I'm so excited.
Call of Duty dogs.
Good game.
E3 2013 has officially kicked off, delivering the usual deluge of announcements. We'll be bringing you all those details next week. Casual games developer Zynga has laid off 520 staff, or approximately 18% of their workforce. The publisher has had a rocky few months following a 40% drop in their stock value and their multi-million-dollar acquisition of Draw Something just before millions of players stopped playing. In a letter to staff, Zynga CEO Mark Pincus said the decision was based on a need to refocus the company on developing games for mobile devices and promised that affected staff would receive generous severance packages. The infamous landfill, which supposedly holds millions of unsold cartridges of E.T. the Extraterrestrial and Pac-Man for the Atari 2600, is going to be excavated. The awful games were supposedly crushed and buried under concrete after failing to sell and crippling the video games industry. Now, Canadian-based filmmaker Fuel Industries has been granted a 6-month permit to excavate the site as part of a documentary based on the incident. And in some tragic news, Andrew Scott Resi, co-founder and lead engineer of Oculus VR, developers of the Oculus Rift, has been killed during a police chase. Aged just 33, Resi was an innocent bystander and was hit at a crossing by fleeing suspects. He's described by his co-workers as a brilliant mind and had previously helped form middleware company Scaleform at the age of 19, as well as working at cloud computing company Gaikai before helping to found Oculus. From the makers of the Resistance and Ratchet & Clank series comes Fuse. It's a full-player cooperative third-person shooter where you play as a crack squad of agents that are sent into a facility to stop an evil corporation known as Raven. They soon discover a substance called Fuse, which when weaponized can turn a standard gun or crossbow into a black hole particle-disrupting, chain-reacting mega-weapon.
Damn!
Early on, the team find 4 such infused weapons, and the story continues as they fight off goons and heavily armoured security robots through a series of levels.
We were excited to play a new game from this developer, but from the moment we stepped in, we couldn't help but be disappointed by just how bland everything was.
Yeah, there's nothing broken or terrible about Fuse. It's just powerfully average in every way possible. I guess that is kind of terrible. Let's talk about the combat. The cover system works well and the weapons are okay, but I wish there was more to choose from. Fights are your standard stop and pop, which are mixed up by the Fuse weapons and class perks. You're also occasionally set on fire, and when this happens you need to duck and roll to put it out.
Yeah, I liked that mechanic, but I thought it was a bit odd that the characters never seemed to mind that much that they were on fire.
Yeah, they're pretty relaxed about it. I'd be stressing out a bit.
Yeah.
Gonna be fine.
As you level up and fill in your tech trees, your abilities will play into others in the group, and you can start forming some basic strategies. There's a medic, a crossbow guy, a tank who has a hideously ugly shield that your teammates can hide behind, and a stealth class, which is by far the most fun.
Yeah, she was my favourite too. Cloaking uses some of your fuse ammo, so you can't spam it. Sneaking up on enemies and taking them out with a pretty slick close quarters move is satisfying, especially when other players have all the aggro. Her Fuse assault rifle can also chain together attacks with explosive results. You're encouraged to stealth attack enemies as much as possible with all the classes, but it's not a very well-developed mechanic, is it?
No, these are the worst guards I've ever seen. They've got their back to every entrance. Turn around. Do your job. When I was playing this game on my own, I honestly didn't have any fun just trudging through these goons with the AI, who were reasonably competent. The story just felt like it was ripped from a movie game. It was cheesy at times and predictable and just not very interesting.
His heart is racing. Should we see what it looks like?
In fact, the whole game felt like a movie game to me, just slightly better than average mechanics and polished gameplay. Hex, even after the first hour and with still so much to unlock, I felt like I'd already seen everything this game had to offer.
Yeah, we have seen all of this before, haven't we? You'll be shooting the back weak spot of tough enemies, riding rail cars, replacing power cores. Again with the power cores, Bajo.
If I have to replace one more power core this year, I'm gonna flip out a bit, Hex. After that Star Trek game?
It's the worst. It's like repairing communication towers. Boring.
Replace your own batteries. I also wasn't a huge fan of the art. The character designs weren't that interesting, and the levels themselves were very warehouse heavy, and there wasn't anything about them that felt particularly interesting to play through.
Yeah, there were some nice backdrops from time to time, but nothing that really stood out. During combat, you can switch between all 4 classes on the fly, which is nice for a change, but it's not particularly useful. Also, you can't swap classes when you're down, and sometimes if you're too far away from the teammate AI, they just won't make it to you in time, sending you back to a checkpoint. Naturally, this is marginally more fun with real players by your side. They do try to mix up the combat a little bit with some stealth guys and some pretty good boss fights, but it's never really enough to make it truly compelling.
Final thoughts, Hex.
There's just so much choice out there for co-op shooters that it's really hard to recommend you and 3 other friends go out and buy this AAA priced game.
Yeah, if it was a downloadable title, maybe, but there's just nothing that says, yes, I need to play Fuse. So I'm giving it the perfectly average score of 5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I'm giving it 5 as well. Double 5s.
Double 5s.
Next up, Tiny Power. After a bizarre loading game where you repeatedly stab a mustached animator in the face, what follows is one of the most honest and raw explorations of unrequited love that I've ever experienced. I've Got Weird Ears is perfect. I'm giving it 10 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Oh, to hell with it. Hex, I love you. I always have. I love you so much. I love you, like, you're my everything. You're my muse.
Dear Megan, 6 months ago, my worst fears came to pass. I was rejected by the entire world. And you. I was in a dark, dark place. But it turned out to be the best thing that's ever happened to me. So many people have contacted me saying how much they love my game and feel like my story is their story.
You complete me.
If I've learnt one thing from this whole experience, it's that art is best when it's simple and from the heart, and that everyone's got their own weird ears.
Oh.
You don't have AIDS.
Result!
But you do have syphilis.
But we're all so busy hiding them from each other to notice.
So I hope Aaron is the person you can both come out of hiding for. Sincerely, Norman. Good on you, Norm.
How do I look?
Perfect.
Good game.
Duct tape, a pressure-sensitive adhesive strip, coated with a polyethylene film for durability, used to patch, seal, and combine all manner of objects. While not exactly the most glamorous of inventory items, duct tape and other similar adhesives like it have appeared in numerous games as a tool with numerous applications.
Duct tape? I'll give him a duct tape. I'll come down here, I'll show him what the duct tape is, I'll show him where to stuff it.
First and foremost, duct tape can be used as the perfect solution to explain some of gaming's more unrealistic designs. The second we see that shimmer of silver tape, we instantly think, they use duct tape. You know what, that might just be possible to build. It's the perfect band-aid for video game escapism. Quite the unsung hero, when this simple roll of sticky tape isn't busy being used to help patch up or shut up, its most common use is to unite 2 unlikely objects into one creative and catastrophic combination. This simple piece of hardware allows players to channel their inner MacGyver, transforming even the most mundane of household items into useful weapons of mass dismemberment, or modify an existing weapon into something that packs a bit more punch.
These things are relentless.
Stay alert! What's even more interesting is the correlation between these homemade armaments and an impending zombie apocalypse. Next to food and shelter, duct tape is a highly sought after and valued commodity. It regularly appears on the survivalist's shopping list, especially since weapons constructed with duct tape are crucial in a world where bullets are scarce, silence is deadly, and ingenuity is king. So remember, when it comes to dealing out damage to the dangerous and the undead, nothing quite does it like duct tape.
Good game.
The developers behind the Uncharted series, Naughty Dog, have finally brought us their new IP. This is a story of true survival, told through one of the most affecting journeys we've ever been on. This is The Last of Us.
Well, when I was a kid, I used to want to be a singer.
Can't be any worse out there. Can it?
Finish him off! Get him still!
Fireflies.
A horrifying pandemic has swept across the population, causing people to become crazed and mutated. It's known as the Cordyceps Virus, and if you're a fan of David Attenborough's documentaries, you'll know this is actually a very real thing.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, Cordyceps manifests itself as fungal spores that infects the brains of insects that then sprouts forth from their bodies. It's freaking gross.
It is gross. In the game, however, it infects the brains of humans with terrifying results.
You play as hardened survivor Joel, trying to keep things together in the devastated remains of the city. Martial law has been declared and supplies are dwindling, so Joel makes a deal with a powerful group called the Fireflies for some much-needed gear, in exchange for smuggling some precious cargo out of the city. Turns out that cargo is Ellie.
What are you doing?
Killing time.
Well, what am I supposed to do?
I am sure you will figure that out.
You'll meet a range of characters throughout your journey across the city, all of whom are wonderfully voiced and acted.
There were a bunch of us. Someone had the brilliant idea of entering the city.
But this story very much focuses around the relationship between Joel and Ellie.
You're gonna want to lean right into that stock, because it is gonna kick a hell of a lot more than any baby rifle.
Like other games in the action-adventure genre, having an AI companion with you really changes the way that you play. Ellie is a complex character, and you're immediately emotionally invested in ensuring her safety.
I blasted with
Slow
a
down,
shotgun.
slow down. Listen, hey, are you hurt?
No.
Yeah, but rather than simply looking after her, it becomes more about how you help each other through the environment. There are times when you'll boost her up to pull ladders down, or she'll crawl through small spaces to open doors for you, and other occasions where you'll need to help her get through obstacles.
She'll also provide audio cues to draw your attention to certain things.
Joel, guys to your left.
You're dead.
And while initially she can't defend herself from enemies and infected as well as you can, she is tough and can defend herself for a limited amount of time.
You okay?
Yeah.
She'll even throw bricks at enemies to stun them.
Hey, chicken shit!
Movement is wonderfully fluid. Perhaps the only remaining echo from Uncharted is how beautiful it is to watch these characters navigate the environment around them. Every animation for every action in this game is absolutely perfect. I have never seen motion capture done quite this beautifully, Bajo, especially in the cutscenes. It shows how important it is to capture the actor's movement and voice at the same time, to get those real human moments from these characters.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
Absolutely, and as a result, the scenes that play out are some of the most weighty and mature interactions we've seen in a game, I think. I feel like this is the next step for this type of storytelling. Every performance is brilliant. We've seen so many post-apocalyptic worlds, but here the themes suddenly feel so much more adult. You just feel how the seriousness and the weight of everything has affected everyone you meet in this game.
The guns he gave you, they weren't his to sell. I want them back.
Doesn't work like that, Tess.
The hell it doesn't.
Each cutscene will take you from tense standoffs to heartwarming expressions of hope.
All right, ready?
Ow!
But I think what impressed me even more is how much of the story is told not through cutscenes. There are incredible moments where characters lead you through the environment as you converse, pausing occasionally while you interact with things or catch snippets of conversation.
If you want, we can take them riding later.
But leaving you in control, making you feel like you're constantly playing a vital role in a story that's unfolding around you.
Okay, that's good. Slowly.
I thought the pacing was great too. It just builds tension nicely. There are moments where the game takes its time, but it never really feels slow. Plus, the action always picks up quickly, with ambushes from bandits resulting in epic shootouts, or finding yourself suddenly surrounded by hordes of infected.
Sound and stealth plays a huge part of these fights, as your best line of defense is listening out for enemies and infected in the surrounding area.
I think they're still in the city.
It allows you to catch bandits by surprise and perform silent kills, or figure out where the infected are located so that you can make sure you stay hidden.
Certain types of infected have been so overcome by the virus that they can no longer see, they're totally blind, and they communicate with clicks and can sense your movement. They're terrifying and will instantly kill you if you give away your position and don't have a sharp melee weapon on you. And of course, being a survival game, many of your makeshift weapons will only last a couple of hits before they break. I loved how much of this stealth wasn't just about line of sight. It was a nice twist to it.
Yeah, and that listening mechanic is both terrifying and a lifesaver. You know, I'm such a cautious gamer. I was constantly paranoid and checking what was behind the next corner. Survival is such a great genre too, because it makes you appreciate every little item you manage to locate, because if you don't have enough tools at your disposal, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, and scavenging has never been more important. In fact, I don't think I've enjoyed it as much as in this game, because it is just that rewarding.
Yeah, although I did find that your AI companions do such a great job of guiding you through and leading you always forward into the next area that sometimes you have to remind yourself to just let them chill out for a sec while you go and scope out the area. A lot of the time there's nothing, but when you do find something, you feel like you've struck gold. Who knew finding a roll of tape could be so exciting?
Aside from the weapons you make from what you scavenge, like shivs, nail bombs, and molotovs, you slowly gather a great collection of guns as well. Initially, you can only have 2 on you, and the rest of your weapons need to be accessed through your backpack and swapped out. I love how long it takes to go through your backpack to do anything. It adds that little bit of extra stress in a fight. But eventually you can craft extra holsters, which let you access more weapons more quickly. And I always love it when whatever you've got equipped is represented on your body.
Yeah, but I think probably the best thing about the variety of weapons you get is that the game gives you a reason to use all of them. You can add armor-piercing upgrades to rifles, shotguns and shorties are great when you're caught in a tight space. Some infected go down quickest with fire, which is where your flamethrower comes in. And your bow and arrow is wonderful for those stealthier kills with the bonus of retrievable ammo. But I really liked using bombs or molotovs the most, because you can draw groups out by throwing a brick or a bottle and then dispatching them quickly. Ellie will often react to your more violent kills as well.
Holy shit, Joel.
I think that's it.
And this serves as a harsh reminder of the brutality of your actions and what you're now forced to do to survive.
The enemy AI is so sophisticated too. Some infected will shriek and draw the attention of others. Hunters and bandits will retreat when overwhelmed and then flank you. And they change their behavior when they notice you have a gun. But being able to keep track of them with your listening tool is always helpful, especially if you're low on ammo or health. You can just sneak up on them.
You had 25 cans of bacon? 24.
But of course, sometimes you just have to flee, and I loved being forced to make that decision.
Yeah, and that's a tough one, isn't it? Because it goes against everything in you as a gamer, that desire to clear the room.
Yeah, you generally do have to clear the area, but there are always multiple strategies you can use to do this. And there's really clever area layouts for you to use to your advantage. You can tell they've really thought hard about every single encounter and different ways that you might approach it to keep it unique and fresh each time.
I really appreciated the fact that the action is so well balanced. The bandit ambushes or stages where you're trapped in buildings with infected all around you really get your heart racing. But then you'll move into sequences where you're just wandering through vast abandoned areas and you just feel so entirely alone. The threat is always imminent, it's just around every corner, but it's not relentless, and that's so well thought out.
Yeah, and those were some of the most beautiful moments in this game where you're just free to explore the environment.
I don't think they saw us.
It's just stunning. Quite often I walk into a room, do the quick scavenge search, and then go, hang on, this is great. You just drink in every scene. This is a post-apocalyptic world done right. Even the most mundane areas are beautiful. And when you're thrown into darkness, it just encourages you to use your torch, which only adds to the atmosphere.
I love how overgrown everything is. And I was interested to discover that one of the designers from Enslaved Journey to the West worked on this game, because that's one of the only other post-apocalyptic games I've played that uses such a vibrant color palette. This is one of Naughty Dog's longest campaigns, so the game takes you through all manner of locations and seasons.
I've never been this close.
It's an emotionally exhausting journey, and so much of what you face is horrifyingly bleak. So, you know, it makes the moments where you get to take in those jaw-dropping landscapes such a wonderful opportunity to pause and appreciate that there's still something worth surviving for.
So is that everything you hoped for?
Jury's still out. But man, you can't deny that view.
And it's just so vast, yet I never felt lost except where it made sense to be that way. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and you never feel like you're being funneled through a section. On-screen cues are minimal, and it just feels so fluid and organic.
Yeah, and you know, one of the issues that a lot of people had with the Uncharted series is that it often felt like control was being taken away from you a little bit too much, with too many quick time sections, but you never feel that way here.
You do get a sense of scale of the world around you, and along with your own narrative, you're constantly finding traces left behind of survivors that have come before you. If you're diligent with your searching, you'll often come across a series of notes that tell stories of previous attempts to meet up with loved ones, or set up camps and colonies. One of my all-time favorite things in good level design is when you can walk into a room and think, okay, something happened here, what was it?
Look at this place. It's like a classroom.
We spoke to developer Ricky Cambier about this, and here's what he had to say.
We've been interested in environmental storytelling for a while now, and that continues to be something that we talk about in Office. It's a key element of our games, that especially with The Last of Us, even, you know, trying to push that even further with each game, that we wanted to, you know, we're going to provide enough within the story for you to understand the characters and their journey, but the world is really rich, and we want to fill in this detail. We want you to understand more about what it took for people to survive, and you know, these are the choices and actions that Joel and Ellie are going through, but 90% of the population has died. There was a lot of other people making tough choices and trying to figure out how to live. Do you live in groups to try to survive? Do you strike out on your own? How do you handle the loss of family? How would you find somebody in this world with, you know, with no electricity, with everything down, transportation, no communication? What would you go through if you were trying to find loved ones? We're interested in all these ideas and want to put hints for the player about what other people were going through. And that shows up in notes and all these other things you can collect throughout the game. It also shows up just in the environment. Like, you can walk through an apartment building and there's been thought about, like, what has happened there. Maybe one of the drains got clogged, and so now water built up there, and then that caused the ceiling to collapse. Well, but now sunlight's coming through. And we'll like kind of tell this story about how nature has come back, where it started, how it's grown, so you can kind of follow the progression of not only people in this world, but the world in this world.
Ugh, man, I could talk about this game forever, but I know we need to wrap this up. I guess if I had one criticism, it would be that the listening mechanic was at times a little inconsistent, because despite upgrading it twice so that I could hear enemies 3 floors up, there were some occasions when I couldn't hear what was in the next room because an action cutscene was about to play out.
Yeah, I think that's forgivable, though. It's the dev's way of saying you need to be surprised now and then, and maybe just those walls were really, really thick.
Yeah, it was a pitiful excuse for a criticism, really. There is also multiplayer with some versus mode, survivors versus factions, but we couldn't access it on our code. What are you giving it, Bajo?
Well, I just love this idea of the Cordyceps Virus because it is a real thing. It's such a great basis for an apocalypse. I highly recommend doing a web search and having a look at some of the videos of it exploding out of ants' brains. I'm just so blown away every time a game makes me feel so completely involved in its story, but also in the lives of its characters, to the extent that this game has. But what I loved most about this game was that it made me not want to fail. I didn't want to fail the characters I'd become involved with, and it wasn't because I'd be sent back to some checkpoint and they were always very close anyway. It was because I genuinely wanted to survive. This was an easy 10 out of 10 rubber chickens from me.
Now, I got to the end of this game and I had to just go lie down and reflect on the journey that I'd just been on. Naughty Dog really are master storytellers and have crafted a gameplay experience so beautifully balanced with its action and its narrative, and on a scale that greatly surpasses anything they've achieved before. This is the game to beat this year. I'm giving it 10 out of 10 rubber chickens. You know, I feel like some people just don't realize that this is where games are at now. I think even my parents don't realize fully what I do for a living, and I kind of want to show them this game and say, this is what games are now.
Yes, it is a pretty good time to be a gamer. We normally do something very special when we give double 10s, and it's rare that we actually have a developer in-house to thank them in person. So we did.
Ta-da!
No way. This is awesome.
We made this for you.
It's a fungus cake.
It's a fungus cake. Kind of gelatinous in its texture.
3.5 years, huh? This is what I get.
Delicious fungus cake.
Good game.
So did you guess the game?
For this week. It was Airport Tycoon 3. Released in 2003 for PC and developed by Interactive Vision, you set about creating and managing the world's largest airport. While not as popular as Air Tycoon 1 and 2, the game did feature 50 different airlines from around the globe. And I chose that one specifically, Hex, knowing how much time you're about to spend in airports.
Oh, thank you.
Next week, our very own Dave Callan will accompany me on the show to review a game that you've been wanting us to look at for a long time, but he had the only copy, Fire Emblem Awakening for the 3DS.
Is there anything you'd like me to bring back for you from LA?
Actually, Hex, I've got a special request. There is nothing like walking the floor at E3. So, I've designed this very special high-tech camera helmet for you to wear at all times, and if you could please just live stream that to my phone so I can experience E3 with you.
I hate hats.
I've also...
Do I have to wear this the entire time?
Got the awards. Now, they are quite fragile,
Front
so
heavy.
you're going to have to take them in the boxes, the awards. And there's about 15 of these in there on your desk if you just take
15?
those as well.
For my
Also,
baggage allowance.
Don't forget to get some exclusives and bring me back a present too. Until next time, Bajo out.
Hex out.
Have a good time.
Oh, these are way too heavy, Bajo. There's
Careful.
And I can't see.
Careful. Camera needs its own batteries as well. You have to get some on the way.